All right. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Marco. I'm a software engineer at Open Robotics. So today I'll present a bit of the roadmap update of Ignition and ROS2, two of our main projects. Most of the stuff that I'll be presenting, it's either some releases that just were made it to the public, like they were released recently, or they're still work in progress. So some of the stuff might be still under discussion. Everything is heavily discussed on the discussion forums that we have, also through GitHub. So some things might still be changing, or might have even already changed since I made this presentation. So apologies for that. But you guys are welcome to go and check all these issues to get more updated if you're interested in some of them. Next slide, please. Yeah, so a bit of a presentation of the company, of what we do, and we like to define ourselves as a group of people that likes to create open software and hardware platforms for robotics. And we like to use those platforms to solve important problems and help others do the same. Next. Yeah, so we are the main group of people. It's in California, so that's the headquarters. And the second main group of people, it's in Singapore. So we're quite a big amount of open roboticists here in Singapore. There's a bunch of people spread out in the US working remotely. There's also a small group in Madrid, in Spain. And we also have Geoffrey working from Japan that also helps us in many projects. Next slide. So regarding what we do, there's three main projects that we're working on. We have the project ROS that everyone knows, and we've been working for a long time, which is now the newest is ROS2. And we also have Gazebo, which also has an end of life, and now we're heavily working on Ignition, which is a rewrite of a simulation environment, but in a decoupled way. So different libraries can be used for different things, and you can use them separately or you can use them together depending on your needs. And then lastly, we have OpenRMF, which is the core project that we're working here in Singapore and collaboration with many local entities. And it's basically a way to, it's a software that helps integrate multi-fleets of robots with infrastructure. Next. Yeah, so I'm going to start talking about Ignition, which, as I said, is a rewrite of Gazebo with in a decoupled way. So different libraries can be used in different ways, like the math library, you can use it just separately, or you can use it together with Gazebo. For the releases, we had the latest one we had is Edifice. So that's the latest release that came out in March. But there's Ignition Fortress is coming soon. So in this presentation, I'll be mostly covering what are the features that are out there being worked and finalized for Fortress, more than talking about Edifice. Next. So yeah, a little bit about Edifice, a little bit of the focus that happened and what we got. It was mostly an improvement on Mac and Windows support. There was mesh level of detail support, and there was the design for enhanced distributed simulation. So those are the three key things that we got on Edifice. There's much more stuff, of course, but this is just the overview of what we got there. Next, please. So yeah, now I'll focus more on Fortress, which is the one that is coming. And we have a bunch of focus areas. So we're focusing on GUI tools, sensors, SD format, rendering, and performance. Next, please. So regarding visualization, there's been added wireframes visualization, transparent, inertia, center of mass, and joints. So you can see an example here on the right. I think we got wireframes on that moving GIF, and then we can see center of mass, I believe, on the bottom right. Next. Regarding GUI tools, Zen plugins, there were two separate Zen plugins. So we got Ignition GUI and Ignition Gazebo. So the idea is to combine them into a single plugin and consolidate all this Gazebo independence features into Ignition GUI. So this will allow to have less duplication into the code. Next. This is a plugin that was developed just to toggle between perspective and orthographic views. So basically, you just need to select it, and then you can just switch between the views easily on the GUI. Next. Regarding the model editor, there's a lot of stuff that happened and it's being worked on. So now you can clone entities. There's a scaling tool. There's post components are editable. You can do a lot of things through the GUI, like insert system plugins, create sensors, create joins, import 3D meshes. There's a semantic view. There's a undo and redo added, and copy paste this also from the GUI. Next. Next, please. Regarding sensors, now you can add information about the custom sensors. So you can make use of the SDF feature for custom tags. So basically, you can see here an example of a custom tag where you're passing the information that you need for your custom sensor, and you pass it to Ignition, and then you can use it on your own sensor. Next. This is an effort for helping the machine learning communities. So there's a bounding box sensor now that you can use on Ignition. And the idea is, so it creates a bounding box around objects, and also it sends a message so you can actually read that information. So you can generate all that information, and you can use it to create different data sets, and then use them on your machine learning algorithms. Next. In the same way, and in an effort to help the machine learning communities, there's also a segmentation sensor with the same idea. You basically can now show the segmentation of the objects, and then you can use that to create your own data sets and use them to train your algorithms. Next. The post tag in SD format is being reviewed. This is the option A that we were looking at the time, but I believe this is discarded at this point. The idea was to have elements to write the post element through child elements, but we're leaning more towards the option B. Next, please. So this is the option B. This is mostly what is being worked on today. As I said, it's a bit under discussion. You can find the discussion on GitHub. So that's where everything is being discussed if you want to get more details about this. Definitely, there's not going to be support for quaternions, at least for now. And there's also still going to be backwards compatibility. So if you still have your post in the old way, don't worry about it. That will still work. Next. Regarding rendering, it's been upgraded to the use of OGRE 2.2. So that means the API has been updated to match that. And that means also we got AGL support, which allows us to run AGL headless support and run OGRE in clouds and virtual machines. So there's no need for any X Windows server when you run rendering. Next. Regarding performance, there's been an update on how you can run Ignition Gazebo. So before, Ignition Gazebo runs in a client-server mode, and it has a certain cost overhead on that. So right now, there's been a work that you can actually do -- same process, and basically everything will run in a single process. So it will be less costly. There's also a refactoring happening of ECM each. So basically, the ECM each performance was decreasing as more components were used. So that has been, it's actually under review. So people are having a look or on the calls when components are added in an effort to try to improve that performance. Next. All right, so finally, just an overview of what the releases are. As I said, the latest that we got, it's Fortress. So Fortress will last for 1 year. So we'll get it until March 2022. And Edifice. And Fortress is the one that is coming. And that will stay, that will be the LTS long-term support release of Ignition. And that will last for 5 years. And it's coming up on September. Next, please. Okay, so now let's talk a bit about ROS2. Next. I wanted to mention again that ROS2 is the new version of ROS, and ROS is it has an end of life already. So Noetic Ninjamis is the last ROS1 release that has an end of life on May 2025. So if you guys still running on ROS1, please, it's time to update, because otherwise you reach that point where it's not supported anymore. There's plenty of tools. There's plenty of help. If you want, you can go to ROS Answers, and everyone is willing to help with your any problems that you have on the upgrade. Next, please. Now, looking at the releases, in this case, Galactic just came out in May. So I'll be focusing more on what we got in Galactic, what is there for Humble. Because to be honest, there's not much yet planned for Humble. There's a few features that didn't make it into Galactic, so they will be into Humble. But yeah, mostly I'll be talking about Galactic that came out in May. We also have the Rolling, which is our favorite, possibly breaking release with the latest and greatest stuff that is happening on the development of ROS. Next. So regarding Galactic, the focus areas are middleware, tooling. There's been a lot of work being done on quality, performance, and there's also been a lot of work being done on documentation to unify all the documentation around ROS2. Next. So regarding the middleware, there's been works from different groups on improving the DDS service reliability. The default middleware selection is a big change in ROS2 at this point in Galactic, because the default DDS vendor has been changed. So now it's Cyclone DDS. So there was a big discussion on the steering committee, and there was also polls in the community to ask for people's perspective. And now Cyclone DDS will be the default and not Fast DDS as it used to be in ROS2 and all the previous releases of ROS2. So this is something that you have to be aware of. Also, this process will be dynamic, so it will keep upgrading. So the default middleware will keep changing depending on the needs of the middleware of ROS2. But with that said, it's very easy to change to your preferred vendor of DDS. So you basically only need to download the package of whatever DDS vendor you want to use and just change an environment variable and you're set to go. And then also there's been efforts in improving the DDS fully connected overhead. Next, please. Regarding ROS-back, the SQL3 backend performance has been improved. There's now separate threads for queuing messages and writing to disk. And we're recording now the clock topic. Next. Regarding quality, as I said, there's been a lot of work in this side. There's had been added cover checks for quality 1 and TI packages. There's been a lot of effort keeping the builds green on the CI and the build farm. So that's been a lot of work. We had like these build farmers always checking for failing jobs and all that. There's been more compiling warnings turned on to improve the quality of the software, and there's been increased testing coverage for C and C++ packages. Next. More quality stuff, quality level 1 declaration up to our CLCPP, and this scan build has been enabled for core packages on pull request builds, and create and maintain on the CI, the address sanitizer job and thread sanitizer job has been created and maintained for core packages. Next. Regarding performance, the executors are a key part of the performance in ROS2, of course. And there's always been an effort, but it's also been there in Galactic to reduce the overhead of these executors. So there's actually many discussions that have been going on and are still going on. You can see on GitHub about this improving executors. And there's also a rewrite on RCLPI to use Pybind 11, which was a tech debt that we had there. Next, please. Regarding documentation, so there's been a big effort on consolidating the ROS2 documentation. So it was a bit all over the place. Now it's easy to find and search. So it's easier for newcomers to find it, and for those of you that already know stuff to find whatever you need. There's auto generation and host per package documentation. And also the guys from Picnic has been working on a demo to show public adoption of ROS2 with the Hello Robots stretch. You can see some snippet of that on the image on the side. Next. And finally, we got Humble. So this is the next release. As I said, it's still not so close. So most of the stuff, most of the work has been done is now out on Galactic. Some work is still even done for Galactic. So it will be added as the new features come. But there's some features that didn't make it to Galactic and will go into Humble. Regarding middleware, control filtering interfaces, or RMW listeners for APIs. Regarding design, there's work to do an extend ROS resource addressing, RCLPI, signal handling, and command line interface test on Windows. Next. All right, so future releases and support. As I said, we got Galactic, and Humble is the next one that is coming. So that will be a long-term support for the next 3 years. Next. And finally, I want to end up by mentioning the community, because I think that's the greatest thing that ROS has. There's a lot of ROS and Ignition and projects. So most of the stuff is done by the community. There's many community events. We got this one. We got the new coming ROSCon in New Orleans, which is going to be a real event, if you guys remember those. And yeah, you guys are welcome to come. I think it's like at the end of October. And next. Next slide, please. And yeah, I want to finalize with giving you guys a bit of information. If you guys want to collaborate in any of these projects, if you haven't done it yet, you can have a look at this slide. For ROS, there's a bunch of website links there. The discourse, which is where everything is being discussed, and then you got also the answers. It's similar for the Gazebo Ignition site. And for OpenRMF, we're still starting. We have a multi-book, and then we also have an organization in GitHub if you guys want to have a look at that. And yeah, thank you very much. And I think